Hello, everyone, and welcome to Direct Snap, the top-level sports NFL talk show. I'm your host, as always, Connor Groel, here to talk about NFL Week 5. As you can see, we got the rundown here on the title slide. Starting off with the top stories, as always. Cut it down to 2 this week. Trying to get through that a little faster so we can get quickly into the bulk of the show, the part I know you guys tune in for, especially the power rankings and the predictions. Also this week, deciding to switch it up a little bit in terms of the order. Normally, power rankings and predictions take up the second half of the show, and we're going to spice it up a little bit. I mean, not too much. And we're going to introduce a new segment, Games of the Week, breaking down the top 3 games of the week, starting this week and probably running that through for the rest of the season. As long as nothing goes horribly wrong and you guys seem to enjoy it. So we're going to start off, as always, with the top stories. First one we're going to talk about this week is our quarter season MVP race. So we are through 4 weeks, 1 quarter of the NFL season. And a couple weeks ago, I talked about Pat Mahomes maybe being an early MVP candidate, but I also said I usually like to wait, about through 4 weeks before we can actually start to have a meaningful sample size and we can start to run with the stats we have and actually make our predictions and actually talk with enough information about who we think will be the MVP of the NFL this season. So a couple weeks ago, again, I talked about Pat Mahomes, and a couple weeks later, Pat Mahomes still tops the list. I think so far there have been 3 guys that have separated themselves from the rest of the league. Pat Mahomes, Jared Goff, and Khalil Mack. You could potentially also include J.J. Watt in that discussion, but unfortunately for the Texans, they are just 1-3, picking up their first win of the season in overtime against the Colts last week in week 4. So 1-3 for a defensive player is definitely not going to be good enough to win the MVP in the Texans. Unfortunately for J.J. Watt, because it feels like he's had a few years where he's definitely been in that mix. The Texans are pretty much going to have to win out for him to stand much of a chance. That's just how it is with defensive players. Only 2 defensive players have ever won the award. Has not happened since Lawrence Taylor in 1986. So no J.J. Watt, but still we have 3 strong contenders. First is Pat Mahomes, obviously, for the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. First year as a starter, kind of taking the NFL by storm right now. I mean, unbelievable stuff. The Chiefs are the most exciting team. Well, Chiefs and the Rams. I mean, let's talk about Mahomes and Goff together. Both these quarterbacks are only 23 years old, a couple of young guys. They are leading the league's only undefeated teams, both of them 4-0 so far. Again, high-powered offenses, throwing up all kinds of numbers. As you can see, Pat Mahomes, 1,200 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, yet to throw an interception. Perfect touchdown-interception ratio. And Jared Goff, a little better on the completions, a little higher on the yards. He has turned the ball over a couple times, but still obviously having a fantastic season. And Goff had a rough start to his career in 2016, taking over in the second half of that season under Jeff Fisher then for the Rams. But then the move to LA, the change in coach to Sean McVay, who, again, I think will go down as one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. It's such a bold statement to make, but if you consider the Rams won 11-5 last season, starting 14-0, Sean McVay's 15-5. He's got as a head coach, all kinds of talent to work with, young talent. Jared Goff and Gurley and Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh and Marcus Peters and Brandon Cooks and all the names. And it all starts with Jared Goff, that franchise quarterback that, could be playing for the Rams, could have him for another 15 years. And McVay, only 32. He was the youngest coach in the NFL when he was signed, still is the youngest coach in the NFL. And if I'm not mistaken, by a good few years still. So, Jared Goff and Sean McVay with that great combination over these last 2 seasons, and it only looks to get better. McVay also one of the best play callers in the league, and the guy with an amazing memory, remembers just about every play he's ever called in his coaching career. And there are videos to back me up on this, but enough about the coach. We're talking about the players. Jared Goff, again, he's shown the ability to hit the deep ball, shown the ability to make all the throws he needs to make, and it's a balanced offense. They can do just about whatever with Todd Gurley also, fantasy number 1 overall pick, one of the best offensive players in the league. Even maybe, actually he was an MVP candidate last season. And he's not someone you can count out, He's could definitely go and have a 2,000-yard season. It feels unlikely with how great the passing game has been. They won't have to rely on him as much as maybe earlier in his career. But another great name. And then Pat Mahomes, again, another quarterback that's benefiting from having a lot of weapons at his disposal. Not the best game for most of the game last week against the Broncos, but Kareem Hunt was killing it in the running game. And then, trailing, needing down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. This was the first time Pat Mahomes has really been tested this season. I would say the first time in his career, but actually in his only start last season, he led the Chiefs on a game-winning drive against the Broncos as well. A field goal on the final play of the game won that one for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs winning this one as well late in the fourth quarter. He needed 2 touchdown drives. He provided 2 touchdown drives. Phenomenal. Saw the play. We switched it to the left hand. It's great awareness, quick thinking, all traits you love in a quarterback. He's also got a great coach, Andy Reid, to work with. So when we're talking about Mahomes and Jared Goff, they're a pair of guys that are great quarterbacks and great minds and have great futures, but also just in really great situations, because we've seen a lot of great quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers comes to mind at the moment that have had, most, if not all, the tools to be very successful, but have not been able to find that great situation. And Phillip Rivers, he's always going to go down as a quarterback, as a great quarterback, but his career is always going to be, I think, viewed as much of a disappointment, because no matter the numbers he throws up, his team will never have that success. He'll never have the success as a team that Mahomes and Goff are already having early in their careers. Again, these guys are both just 23. And when we've also been talking about the young running backs taking over the league, and now the young quarterbacks, it's kind of funny. In the NFL, it's always been seen, I think, as a league completely different to college, and it is. And one where guys need a couple of years to adjust. And also speaking about Pat Mahomes, I guess it does come into play that he did sit his rookie season behind Alex Smith, so also another good veteran quarterback being able to help him and just being able to learn. But just guys, early in their careers making, huge impacts on the game and kind of changing how the game has been played. And of course, Khalil Mack as well, this third guy on the list. A bit older, he's 27 in his 5th season. Linebacker for the Bears, formerly the Raiders, infamously. Let's talk about this guy. He's unbelievable. A sack and a forced fumble in every game. Had the pick 6 in week 1 against Aaron Rodgers. 5 sacks. Just, crazy. An impact player. I wouldn't say quite single-handedly that he's turned the Bears into a contender, but he's the core of one of the best defenses in the league. And he's proven himself to be, I would say, the most impactful defensive player in the league. And he's just scary. He's just scary what that man can do. So these are the 3 earlier contenders for season MVP. And I would think at the end of the season, it'll go down as a race between Mahomes and Goff. It is early. So we could see a few more names enter the list. You never want to count out your Brady's and your Rodgers, although neither one of them has had quite the start to the season they've been hoping for. And just, Drew Brees as well could find his way in that race. Just, a plethora of possible options. And unfortunately, unless Khalil Mack keeps up this pace, if he does keep up this pace and ends with, 18, 20 sacks, and I think he'll force himself into that race. But otherwise, as we've seen in previous years, it'll probably just go down to quarterbacks, maybe a running back. But at the end of the day, these two top names on the list are the starting quarterbacks for the two best teams in the NFL. And usually that's the player that wins the award. Both of them undefeated. We'll see how long they can keep undefeated. But for now, definitely the top two in the MVP race, I would say. As we move on to the second and final top story for this week. And I'm going to use this opportunity to go on a bit of a rant. Game management. Why is this so hard? Come on. It feels to me like every week, and this week more than most, I will admit, but every week in the NFL, I see teams making huge mistakes and even a lot of small mistakes that add up and hurt their chances of winning. Just in game management, we're not even talking about execution here. We're just talking about playing the numbers and making smart decisions in play calling, in timeout usage, in pace of play, going for it on fourth down, going for 2 after a touchdown. And consistently, we see these teams make these mistakes. And this is something I'm probably going to have to write an article about, because this is something we see everywhere in sports, not just in the NFL. We see it. I'll get into that a bit later. First, let's break down a few instances of just poor game management that happened this week. The most obvious one. Frank Reich and the Colts. Man, what are you doing? Inexplicable fourth down decision. If you did not see what happened, I'll give you a quick rundown. Scores 34-34. Colts have gone on an incredible comeback to even force overtime. Trailed 28-10 in that third quarter, and are able to tie it up. At 31. At 31, entering overtime. And then they trade field goals to start that overtime period, bringing it to 34-34. Time's running out. We're down to 10-minute overtimes. It's already caused 2 ties this season. So 34-34, the Colts get the ball back less than 2 minutes ago. We reach a situation where the Colts are facing 4th and 4 at their own 43-yard line with 27 seconds left on the clock. They have 1 timeout. Houston has none. Again, 4th and 4 at their own 43-yard line with 27 seconds left. The defense that the Colts coach, Frank Reich, used for this decision was one that I think I've seen a lot of the time in football. It's, we don't play for ties, we play for wins. What most people would do, what you would do if this was the same situation, but in the fourth quarter, 100 times out of 100, you punt this ball away and just, say, we'll take the game into overtime. That's the best decision to make. That doesn't change in overtime. It is still the same situation effectively. And it's the same decision you should make. You should punt the ball. Here's what happened. Colts go for it. First of all, after they do some crazy timeout stuff. They line up like they're going to go for it, and the Texans call their second timeout. And then they, send Andrew Luck right back out there like he's going to go for it. And then he tries to draw the Texans offsides a couple times. Then they call their first timeout. And at this point, everyone's thinking they're punting the ball, because that's what happens. You try to draw them offsides. With your snap count, try to get that 5 yards. Try to get the free first down, because there's no use. Or if you're the Colts in this situation, there's no reason to hold on to these timeouts. You might as well try to get that free first down. But at this point, everyone kind of figures that they're punting. But Andrew Luck comes back out again. They go for it. Again, 4th and 4 on their own 43-yard line. They throw a short pass, about a 6-7 yard pass, right side of the field. Low ball to the ground. Colts guys try to, dive to even catch the ball. It's incomplete. Texans take over at the Colts 43 with 24 seconds left. One pass finds DeAndre Hopkins, gets down to the 19-yard line. Texans spike the ball, kick a field goal, win the game. Colts blow it. A few reasons why the Colts should not have gone for it. First off, no T.Y. Hilton. So your favorite target's not even in the game. Also, only one timeout, which you're going to have to burn if you get the completion. And then at this point, you have the ball, at midfield? No timeouts, 20 seconds left. You can get into field goal range. It's still not guaranteed though. You still need at least one completion out of bounds. Maybe even 2 completions to even get into field goal range. Comfortable field goal range at least. And the play they called, they didn't try to throw the ball. They didn't throw an out route. They didn't try to get the ball out of bounds. They were going to be forced to burn that timeout. Why you're trying to get 6 yards, that's not really going to help you. If you're going to go for it, you got to be looking to attack and try to, get something that'll really increase your odds of scoring this, or of kicking this field goal and winning the game. Because let's look at it this way. If you punt the ball, what happens? Because there are 3 things that can happen here. 3 outcomes for this play for the Colts. The Colts can either A, punt, they can B, go for it and be successful, and C, they can go for it and miss. If you punt the ball, it's a tie. The Texans have no timeouts, 20 seconds left. They get the ball at their own 20-yard line. There's no way they're scoring points. Punt the ball, tie. If you go for it and you get it, there's maybe a 50-50 chance you can kick a field goal. And that might be a bit generous, but if we're including the odds that they make the field goal, I still pretty comfortably will say there's a less than 50% chance that you win the game. And if you go for it and you miss, all the Texans need is, 10 yards out of bounds. You don't even need to get out of bounds, because as it actually happened, they stayed in bounds and spiked the ball. They had enough time. All the Texans need to do is complete one pass, kick a field goal, and you're basically giving up the game. But of course, they decide to go for it because, ties are for losers or sissies or whatever the coaching mantra is in the NFL, whatever the primary frame of thought is. And they lose the game. This is something in the NFL. This is why teams blow these games in the NFL. They're not looking at the odds. They just say, well, we don't want to tie a game. We're trying to win the game. what you have to look at, if you punt the game, or if you punt the ball, call your EV, your expected value, it's half a win, right? On average, you get half a win. If you go for it, the only thing that should go into your decision on whether you go for it or not is, if we go for it, is our expected value out of this game higher or lower than 50%? It's clearly lower. That's why you punt the ball. But coaches do this all the time, where they where they're reluctant to make decisions that most coaches won't make. In the NFL, what teams don't want to do is they don't want to look stupid. They don't, and this is the same reason NHL teams don't pull the goalie. It's the same reason in the NBA, when the three-point line was created, teams didn't shoot a lot of threes. It's because they don't want to do things unconventional. In sport, we kind of have these rules of how the game should be played, or how the game has always been played. And coaches don't want to branch off from that. And a lot of the times, these rules that we've kind of put into place, were formed before the analytics revolution and have really no numbers behind them. They just do it because it's what everyone has always done. Everyone always plays to win the game. So why would you ever punt the ball in this situation? Coaches are scared of being that first one to branch off, to do something different, even if the numbers are in their favor. Let's talk about Todd Bowles for the Jets. Jets are trailing 25-3, 13 minutes left in the game, 4th down and 6 or something at like the 10-yard line of the Jaguars. They're playing the Jaguars this week. Kicks a field goal. You're down 22. If you kick a field goal, that's a 3-score game, by the way, 22 points. If you kick a field goal, that's a 19-point game. That's still 3 possessions. There's no reason to kick a field goal. Todd Bowles says after the game, we were still going to need to score a couple more times anyway, so let's just settle for the 3 points. He didn't say settle. That's me just being a bit angry. But you don't have a lot of possessions left in this game. It's the 4th quarter, and if you make a 3-possession game, you've done nothing. You're still going to have to shut down the opposing team. If they score any more points in this game anyways, you're toast. So you need 3 touchdowns. And even if you go for it and you miss, you can still score 3 touchdowns. Whereas if it's a 19-point game, I guess you're in a situation, 2 touchdowns and a field goal, you still need 3 scores. It's crazy. Why are we doing this? Later in the game, it's 25-12, 4.5 minutes remaining. They have 4th down on their own 20-yard line, 2 timeouts, and they punt. What are you doing? And a lot of people in this one, especially, is something coaches don't want to look stupid. They don't want to give the ball up on their own 20-yard line. But all your decisions need to be made on the premise of, does this increase or decrease our chances of winning the game? Right? If you punt the ball away, there's a decent chance you never touch the ball again. And Todd Bowles, again, he says after the game, well, if we didn't get it, we were already giving up a field goal because the Jaguars would have the ball in such great field position. We're basically already giving up a field goal. So, we can't risk not giving it up, or we can't risk giving them the ball at our own 20-yard line. Well, of course you can. It's a 13-point game. If they kick a field goal, it's crazy. It's still a 2-possession game. I'm kind of freaking out here. The Jets need 2 touchdowns to get back in this, game. And only less than 5 minutes left. You got to be aggressive. You got to try to score those points. If they punt it away, and they hold the Jaguars to a field goal. It's a 16-point game. What do the Jaguars need, or the Jets need? They still need 2 touchdowns. Now they need 2 extra points, but it's still a 2-score game. It's ridiculous. I mean, just terrible, terrible, terrible. And this is one, I'll applaud the Broncos. And I just realized, I cut down our top choice to 2, trying to speed it up. I did not speed up anything. But this is just ridiculous. And I feel like I'm not being as eloquent as I should be, which is why I'll probably end up writing something about this. Because right now I'm just kind of losing my mind. Try to get my thoughts a little more concise, a little clearer. But situation at the end of the Broncos-Chiefs game. Broncos 4th down. They need a touchdown to win the game. They're at, around the 30-yard line of the Chiefs with 17 seconds left. 4th down. They have no timeouts. They run a hook and ladder play. Right? And the guy makes the reception on the hook, throws the ladder, and he gets hit as he's doing the lateral, and it's a fumble. And the Chiefs pick up the loose ball, and they end up winning the game, right? And I saw people online, and I saw the announcers. The announcers were like, tearing into this receiver that lateraled the ball. Why aren't you trying to get out of bounds? Why aren't you going down immediately so your team can run up and spike the ball? First of all, I'm not sure if he could have got out of bounds. But if this hook and ladder play is successful, they win the game. If he doesn't get hit, he's going to complete this lateral. They're in good position, and there's a lead blocker up ahead. And there is a really decent chance that they score a touchdown and they just win, But what if he goes down with 12 seconds left? What if he catches the ball? Because he does have first down yardage. Goes down immediately. There's like 11, 12 seconds left. There's a chance you don't even get to spike the ball because it is that close. More than likely you do with a couple seconds left. And then you have one play from the 20-yard line, we'll say. The Chiefs can throw 7 cornerbacks in the end zone and just play prevent. They can have a crazy zone. It'll be very difficult to score on just one play when that play is for the game and they need a touchdown. Very low odds that they actually win this game. Higher odds if they go for the hook and ladder play. And also, that was the play call. You could easily see that this is what the Chiefs were trying to do. The Broncos were trying to do. So don't criticize the wide receiver for running the play. The Broncos here made a bold decision, but I think they made a correct decision if they're trying to win the game. Alas, of course, everyone's results-oriented. And when the play ends in a fumble and loses them the game, everyone laughs and says, what are you doing? But guess what? You're going to lose that game 9 times out of 10 anyway. And that's, one of the times where trickery can work the best is when everyone expects, and those announcers expect you to do one thing, to, take your 5 yards, spike the ball, go to the end zone, That's when you do the unexpected, and they almost pulled it off. Game management, why is this so hard? I don't know. I kind of wish an NFL team would hire me or anybody that looks in analytics. Because all the time, teams are not calling timeouts. They're wasting time, especially before the half. A lot of times, teams are content to just take the game into the half where they can call timeouts, get the ball back with a minute left, try to score some points. Everyone's messing up the timeouts. Everyone's messing up these 4th downs. Teams need to go for it on 4th down more. This has been proven. And I think, that's what I got to say. We're going to move on. I spent 20 minutes talking about a few plays. We're going to move on. Power rankings. Doing this in a little bit of a different style this week, but, same thing. We'll take it 8 at a time. Here we go. Bottom 8, Cardinals, still the worst team in the league. Almost beat the Seahawks, but, if you're the only team at 0-4, where do you expect to end up? Bills, proving that Vikings game was a fluke. Like it felt like it was at the time. That's why I only had the Bills up to 30 in the power rankings last week. Because they certainly couldn't do that again, could they? And no, they could not. They got blanked in Green Bay. Raiders getting their first win. Gets the Browns. Controversial circumstances. An absolutely crazy, absolutely ridiculous game. That's why the Browns are still ahead of the Raiders. Still have much more confidence in the Browns. Texans move ahead those Colts after the Colts botched the end of the game. And 49ers did much better than expected with C.J. Beathard. Almost beat the Chargers. Moving on. Giants at 24. First of all, before I give you the rest of this quartile, this is not a result of the Giants doing anything great. The Giants did not have a great game. Offensive line was better, but Eli a little too hesitant. They're just not throwing the ball deep. They're not putting themselves in positions to win. And a large part of that's play calling. A large part of that is Eli Manning. He has a great completion percentage. He's top 5 in completion percentage. He's like 12th in yards and 12th in quarterback rating. He's having a decent year. But he needs, and the whole Giants offense needs to realize that they have weapons. Utilize them, throw the ball. Let them make plays. Giants are only moving up because the Colts are moving down. And these bottom 9 teams are pretty locked in. You see not a lot of movement. No one's moving more than 2 spots this week because these teams are just not very good. And I think we all kind of know that at this point. The rest of this group, wish I had any idea what was causing these glitches. If I just move the mouse around, things will glitch. Fortunately, that's just how it goes for some reason. Anyways, Lions losing a close one to the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott, career high in yards, total yards. Crazy stuff from him. And remember the Bucs? Remember we thought the Bucs were good? So much for Fitzmagic. Tell me another quarterback that throws for 1,400 yards in 4 weeks and then gets benched. But Jameis Winston's the starter moving forward. Broncos playing well, moving up even though they lost that to the Chiefs. Undefeated team. Broncos very nearly gave them their first loss. Dolphins, another team like the Bucs. Proving, if the Dolphins beat the Patriots, I was going to have to seriously reevaluate some things. But no, just like I thought the Dolphins were posers. They're every bit the bad team that we thought they were going to be. Anyways, moving on to the top half. A bunch of teams in turmoil here. The Eagles not looking good. Neither are the Vikings, the Steelers, the Falcons. Chargers still moving down, even though they got a win. Because they nearly lost to those 49ers without Garoppolo. There's one thing you know about the Chargers. It's that they'll always do the opposite of what you think they'll do. If they're supposed to crush a team, they'll barely win. If it's supposed to be a close game, they'll probably get blown out. It's just kind of how the Chargers are. Or they'll lose a close one. Continuing to find ways to defy expectations. Not in a positive way. How about the Bears? The Bears are one Aaron Rodgers touchdown drive away from being 4-0. And man, do they look good. Dropping, 45-7, 48-7 against the Bucs? Nuts. And the Titans beating the Eagles. Bengals beating the Falcons. Falcons, great offense, but they've allowed 80 points in their last 2 games, and that is no way to win games. Got to remember, there's 2 sides to the ball. Two sides to the ball. And you can have great offense, but if your defense is even worse, that's how you end up 1-3. Top 8 features one new face, the Ravens, looking more and more like the real deal. And their only loss to the Bengals is looking not too bad right now. Patriots and Packers both moving way up. They were struggling early on in the season, but, finally showed more of their true colors, more of their historic success. Packers blanking the Bills. Patriots nearly blanking the Dolphins. They were about 38-0 in that game, and the Dolphins got one touchdown in garbage time. And then top 5, largely unchanged, Eagles out. And Jags, Saints, Panthers moving up a spot above the Eagles. But they're all looking good, as are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the league. The Rams and the Chiefs both undefeated. That's our power rankings. Before we get into the predictions for this week, week 5, starting that new segment I talked about at the beginning of the show, Games of the Week. Every week I'm going to be breaking down, just giving talking a little more about what I think are the 3 best games of the week. These are the games, if you can watch the highlights of some games or, Sunday Ticket or whatnot, or, these are the games you should be looking to follow the closest, essentially. So here we go. But first, a bonus 4th matchup. This is the 4th best game in the week, in my opinion, but this is a bonus for one reason. It's because Drew Brees in this game will likely become the NFL's all-time passing leader. You see the top 3. 98 away from Favre and 200 away from Peyton Manning. That magic number's 201, people. 201 yards and Drew Brees. Mr. Consistency over the last, 15 years or so. Just fantastic. One of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. And by the time he's done, it feels like he's going to have all the major records. He's already got, completion percentage. He'll have he'll have passing yards. Yeah, he probably will have touchdowns. He'll probably have everything. He's Drew Brees. Anyways, this will be a great game on Monday Night Football. Saints hosting the Redskins. Redskins coming off a bye. Should be a great one. And I'll give you my pick for that a little later, of course. But for now, the top 3 games of the week. Number 3, Vikings-Eagles. Couple teams struggling as of late. You see those last week results. Vikings dropping a game at the Rams after they dropped a game to the Bills. And Eagles falling in overtime against the Titans. Props to the Titans and Mike Vrabel for the aggressive play calling. Getting that win. They could have kicked a field goal and kept that game going in overtime, but instead they say, no, we're going for the win. And a win they got. For the Vikings, the interesting thing has been their disparity between the passing game and the running game. Part of that's because of Dalvin Cook's absence. Part of that's because they've been down in some games. They've needed to score a lot of points. But 5th in passing yards and last in rushing yards, only 252 rushing yards through 4 games. That's 63 per. Whereas Kirk Cousins, 1,300 passing yards. He's airing it out, but not to a lot of success. That top defense has been struggling early this season. On the other hand, these Eagles, Carson Wentz, he's been okay. But again, similar to Deshaun Watson, not really seeing that spark, that made him so successful, that made that offense so successful last season. They've been incredibly mediocre, between 18 and 23 points in every game this season. And they haven't really looked great in any of their 4 games. Still looking for them to really put one together. In both of these teams, it's a big game. Neither team wants to pick up their 3rd loss. Similar in our number 2 game of the week. Again, 2 more teams in disaster mode. And I think the Vikings and the Eagles can probably sustain a loss, but these 2 teams are really in disaster mode if they lose another game. Steelers a game and a half behind the Bengals in their division. Falcons 2 games behind, both 2 games behind the Saints and a game and a half behind the Panthers. And both these teams, again, have really been struggling. A lot of offense, but no defense. Very similar teams to how they've started this season. As you can see, the last 2 weeks, the Falcons have scored 73 points. That's great. But they've allowed 80, and that's 2 losses. Does not matter how much you score if you give up more. Steelers, similar, 6th in total offense. And we're top 3, I think even 2nd, before their loss against the Ravens, where they really struggled. But still 6th in total offense and 30th in defense. Neither one of these teams can stop anybody. Le'Veon Bell looks to maybe be returning Week 7 to the Steelers, but this is only Week 5. They will not have him in time. But the number 1 game of the week, clearly, is the top 2 teams in the AFC. Teams number 2 and number 3 in my power rankings. This is probably going to be the best game of the season so far. No. We'll see in practice. But on paper, this is the best matchup. It's the number 1 defense against the number 1 offense. Pat Mahomes and his 14 passing touchdowns through 4 games. When it goes to the Jaguars, who only allow 160 yards passing per game, and Mahomes averaging about double that. Interesting for the Jaguars, Leonard Fournette, star running back, will be out. He's only played in 2 games this season, leaving both those games early, the game against the Giants. And last week against the Jets, only 20 carries for 70 yards on his season. And injuries have been a major issue for him early in his career. But with his absence, it's forced the Jaguars to play a little differently. Play a little more high tempo, take some more chances, allow Bortles to really air it out, and they've been pretty successful in that. We saw that in that win against the Jets, saw it in the win against the Patriots. Nobody really knows what happened in that 9-6 game against the Titans. But, the Jaguars have definitely shown their ability to put some points on the board. I think it'll be a very interesting game. Clearly, for me, the number 1 game of the week. So let's head into the predictions. Last week was a little better, 9-6, 6-7 against the spread, still not great. 2 spread games were pushes. First one was that Vikings-Rams game, Rams -7. And then also the Seahawks-Cardinals game, Seahawks -3, were both pushes. That's why only 13 results there on the season, 35-26 straight up. 31-29 against the spread, basically batting 500 against the spread. So, average. And not doing too great, honestly, the picks so far. But, we take it 1 week at a time, and we're going to try to do a little better this week. Still doing okay, but, I like to see much better, and I expect much better. So let's do much better. Here's my Week 5 predictions. First one, Patriots-Colts. Patriots favored by 10. That's a lot of points, even at home. Of course, the Patriots kind of salvaging their season. The big win against the Dolphins last week. I think this game will be a little trickier. Colts have no running game, but they got Andrew Luck. 31-23 is going to be my call on this one. Patriots clearly the favorite, and I'll give them the win, but not quite feeling like giving up 10 points. So I'll take the Colts against the spread. Broncos-Jets. Interesting to see the Jets favored by 1.5. I thought this one might even be just a straight-up pick 'em. I'm taking the Broncos to win the game. I liked what I saw from them against the Chiefs. And the Jets have been a mess the last couple weeks. And it's as simple as that, really. Giants-Panthers. My Giants not looking too hot, allowing a big game to Alvin Kamara. Just So many questions surrounding this team. It looks like another disappointing season coming up. But it's not like their schedule's doing them any favors. I've already played the Jags and the Saints. Now playing the Panthers. Coming up, they got the Eagles and the Redskins. The Falcons, all before the bye. Hopefully they can try to get a couple wins. But doesn't look great. 24-16 is my call on this one. I'll take the Panthers. Where is the graphic? What graphic? Or did we have another glitch? I don't know. I wish I could tell you what goes on with this PowerPoint. But I don't know. If I just move it around, things will be weird. I think you can see everything just fine. At least from my perspective. Dolphins-Bengals. It's funny. Matchup with 2 3-1 teams, but one's favored by 6. Because one's the Bengals and one's the Dolphins. The Dolphins are very bad. Well, I can't say very, but look, not a lot of faith in them. For me, a pretty clear Bengals pick, 28-17. Yeah, see, look at this. Look at the Dolphins right now. Like, come on. Anyways. Ravens-Browns. Ravens favored by 3 on the road against Cleveland, and the Ravens have been looking very good. Browns, I expected them to keep the ball rolling. Win back-to-back games, Jets and Raiders, be 2-1-1. That'd be a great start for the Browns. But this does not look like that team. Only see power rankings. I don't know. Let me know if you can see everything now. But Ravens-Browns, taking the Ravens, 26-21. Again, pretty clear one for me. I feel like the guys in Vegas were lazy this week. Because for me, and this is a game where the road team is favored by 3 points, but it feels like half of these matchups, and you'll see as we continue to go down the line, are just the home team is favored by 3. Come on, guys, do your job. Make one a 2.5. Make it look like you put a little thought into it. Anyways, Packers on the road in Detroit, looking to keep up momentum. I think they will. 30-24 is going to be my pick on this one. Jaguars-Chiefs, here we go. Game of the week. Pat Mahomes has never lost a game as a starter. 5-0. This will be the biggest test of his young career. The Jaguars defense is going to be hungry. Hungry to make a statement, and what a better team to do it against than the Kansas City Chiefs, especially on the road. So why not pick an upset? That's what I'm going to do. 23-22, it's going to be very close. It's going to be very close for sure. But at the end of the day, I like an upset. Here we go. Titans, Bills. Yeah, I'm not even going to waste time talking about this one. Titans big. Because Bills. That's why. Falcons, Steelers, again, both these teams need to win desperately. Will the Falcons fall to 1-4? Unfortunately, yes, they will. This, to me, I feel like it's going to be just like the last couple Falcons games. It's going to be a high-scoring, really fun game to watch. And at the end of the day, the Falcons blow it. They're up 29-27. Just kick the field goal to give them that lead. Minute 20 left. Big Ben, 2 timeouts. Well, actually, in this situation, there would be no reason for them to score a touchdown. They would just kick a game-winning field goal. But anyways, yeah, I'm calling a 5-point Steelers victory. Winning the game and beating the spread. Raiders, Chargers. Again, as I continue to say, whatever you think the Chargers will do, they'll probably do the opposite. So as much as I would love to say the Chargers take this one easily, I think it'll be a little closer. I'm not very gung-ho on the Raiders at all. I'm not going to give them the win or anything, but we'll take the points. 27-24 Chargers, my call on this one. Vikings-Eagles, another one of those games of the week. Another two teams. Again, I think both these teams can sustain a loss more so than the Falcons and the Steelers, but neither team will want to. The Vikings schedule in particular has been brutal. Like brutal. And it doesn't even end this week, which is a shame because I think they will drop it. This was a really close one for me picking it. But I do think we'll start to see a bit of a return to form for the Eagles, and they'll need to play better to win this game. They will need to play better. Cardinals, Niners. This is a great chance for the Cardinals to get in the win column. They are on the road. But if there's, any team you want to be playing right now, the 49ers are one of those top teams for sure. I think it'll be close. Don't see a lot of points in this one, but I do think at the end of the day, the 49ers will hold on. 2017, they are favored by 4. I say they win by 3. 3 games left. What's up, Brian? Thanks for tuning in. Closing out the show with a few picks. Rams, Seahawks. Rams favored by 7, and I would say it feels disrespectful to call this big of a win for the Rams. But the Rams are the best team in the league right now, and the Seahawks are nothing like they used to be. And with Earl Thomas going down with the ACL injury, it's really the end of any remnant of their defense from a few years ago. Goodbye, Legion of Boom. And even when the Seahawks were good, the Rams seemed to be their Achilles heel. Rams had a great record against the Seahawks even in those great Seahawks years. So why stop now? 31-16 Rams. Sunday Night Football, it's the rivalry that doesn't actually exist. Texas rivalry once every 4 years. Cowboys and the Texans hosting their state counterparts from Dallas. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know for this one. Flip a coin. Mine came up heads for Houston, 23-19. Again, this one I can easily see going either way, but I do like the Texans to build off of that momentum. Maybe stealing a win last week, but a win is a win is a win is a win. And that offense is looking a lot better. By the way, Jadeveon Clowney recovering that fumble in the end zone. Big play for him. J.J. Watt, I believe, forced the fumble. Which is a really big confidence booster, hopefully, for him, because Clowney has struggled. Moving on, of course. Final game of the week. Redskins Saints, I talked about it a little earlier. First prediction, does Drew Brees hit that 201 yards, become the NFL's all-time passing leader? I say yes. I say yes, they do. Going back to that Cowboys game, Sumitra, I can't call a Cowboys game to save my life. So, yeah, the Cowboys probably will win. I don't think I've gotten a Cowboys game right all season long. I know I missed them. I called them to beat the Seahawks when they lost. I called them to lose to the Lions and the Giants when they won. And off the top of my head, that first game of the season. No, I did call that one correctly. Their loss to the Panthers. But I've missed 3 Cowboys games in a row, so, might as well make it 4, right? Anyways, Saints favored by 6.5. I'm pretty darn comfortable picking the Saints to win, but taking the Redskins against the spread in this one, 30-26. Would I like that spread to be 7 or 7.5 instead of 6.5? Yes. 6.5 kind of feels like a tease. But yeah, interesting. I suppose this is a minor homecoming, just crossed my mind, for Adrian Peterson. Spent a few weeks in New Orleans last season before moving on to Arizona and now Washington, and he's looked pretty good so far. Another Adrian Peterson comeback season. How many can this man have? I don't know. The answer feels like a lot. Bucs and Bears on bye this week. And coming off that bye, Jameis Winston will be starting for Tampa Bay. So those are the picks this week. That is the show. I'm Connor Groel. For Top Level Sports, as always, you see the social media links. You know where to find me. And as always, sticking around for a few questions. If anyone's got anything for me, drop it in the comments on Facebook Live, where we are live every week, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, talking about the NFL. I mean, roughing the passers this week. Well, I feel like we're going to get a little better about this. The NFL Rules Committee met and they clarified a few things, but no changes to the rule. I think players are going to begin to adapt because they have to. I think the refs have been getting a little bit of flack for all the roughing the passer calls, so I think maybe we won't see quite as many flags. What did I say? We had 30 the first 3 weeks of the season. I think that's right. I don't know how many were in week 4, but if we're saying we're averaging 10 a week, I don't know, maybe 7. Maybe back down to roughly normal. Eli finally do well. Well, your short answer is probably no. Short answer is probably no. Unfortunately, Panthers got a good defense, and Eli seems to be petrified to throw the ball more than 6 yards downfield. I don't know if you were here in time for my Giants prediction. I had them losing 24-16 to the Panthers. This is a brutal schedule. Can I please, again, read the Giants schedule? Started against the Jaguars, Cowboys, Texans. Texans is the easier one. We did get a win there. And then Saints, Panthers, Eagles, Falcons, Redskins. Falcons are 1-3, but, they've been a playoff team the last several seasons. The Redskins look good. The Panthers look good. The Eagles just won the darn Super Bowl. So it's a tough first half. I mean, if we can find a way to get into the bye 3-5 from this 1-3 position we're in right now, I think we'll take it. I'd take it right now in a heartbeat. Eli has not had a particularly bad year. I mean, he's only thrown 1 interception, and I think the main thing with Eli has always been the picks, is what people get on him for. And he's completed a lot of his passes, but I mean, what he kind of reminds me of, can I say? Yeah, I guess I'll say. He kind of reminds me of like an Alex Smith from the last few years, but without any of the big plays. Alex Smith's always been more of a game manager type, high completion percentage. But it feels like the Chiefs always broke off a couple long touchdowns a game. And the Giants have been that kind of safe offense, but just the spark hasn't been there, not a lot of big plays. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough time to be a Giants fan. I got really excited in the game last week against the Saints. Forced a quick 3-0 to start the game, and then had a great touchdown drive, quick 7-0. And after that win against the Texans, where the offense looked good, for a moment there, I thought, man, we're just going to beat the Saints in 2 in a row, and we're just going to start rolling. And then very quickly, that did not happen. The good thing I could say is our red zone defense was very good. I think it was 12-7. Yeah, it was 12-7 at halftime. Forced the Saints kicked 4 field goals. Saints had 4 field goals in the second quarter. And if anyone wants their homework assignment, try to find me the last time a team's kicked 4 field goals in a quarter. I have no idea. I do not miss the Giants' previous coach. Ben McAdoo is one that I do not miss at all. I've talked a lot about that, and frankly, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And yeah, Pat Mahomes is very good. I think that's that's kind of established by now. Throws with his right hand, he throws with his left hand. You know, he'll start tossing them behind his back, over the head, granny shots. I don't know. Dude feels like he could do it all, but hopefully not this week because I took the Jags. All right, I think that's going to about do it for me. Once again, this is Direct Snap. I'm Connor Groel, NFL Week 5. And we'll be back next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, here on Facebook Live. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And until next week, see you.